Hello, hello. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Say Yes with Heather and John. Good morning, Heather. How are you doing today?
Good morning. Good morning. Very good this morning.
How was your weekend? Actually, we were just kind of getting into it, and then we're like, oh, we realized we got to start. How was your weekend?
You know what? It was amazing. I put a challenge out to everyone on Friday to say yes to your family and your loved
Hmm.
ones. So of course I have to also do the same challenge. My nephew wanted to go bowling this weekend, so we I said yes to that.
Nice.
The downfall though is that I didn't make a reservation. So we got to the bowling alley and there was no lanes available for like 7 hours. So we didn't do bowling, but we did go out and have a nice lunch together, and then I said yes to take him to the movies next Friday. So it's all lined up. We're good, but
Awesome.
yeah, book your
Yeah.
appointments for bowling. Who knew?
Just getting out there, things are busier, which is great, it's nice for the local businesses too, right? Like
Yeah.
7 hour wait time for bowling. I can't remember the last time I went bowling. That's a good thing. I should try that. Yeah, no, this weekend's been, and like yourself, I said yes to family, and I had the opportunity to reconnect with my wife's cousins. We had, food together. It was really good. We had some really good conversations, and I think the one thing that, or at least for me, I felt like there's been a loss of connection between people.
Yeah.
And one of the things I had an opportunity. I was at an event this weekend, and we had the opportunity to just reconnect, or he taught us how to reconnect in such a simple way. And one
Ooh,
of
I'd
the
love to
exercises, yeah,
tell
yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah, I will. I'll share more. The person that was delivering the training delivers training in and around the world. And so what he do? He had us connect in groups of just two people, and just find three things that you have in common.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay. And what was really funny, regardless of the age, the background, the culture, the religion, we were able to find three things that we had in common. And it's like,
Mm.
ooh, that's interesting. How many of us out there have at least three things in common? And actually, that made me think, how many things did I have in common with Heather before I met Heather?
Okay.
I know of three things. Uh, it's almost like it's a test, right? But if we go back and we think about how much have we lost connection, especially over the last 2.5 years, and it was really good. He talked about not using the P word, no P word. So, what I'm going to start including in my vocabulary as part of my language, no longer using the P word. But in terms of connection, we've lost connection over the last 2.5, almost 3 years, right? Like, I think we're going almost 3 years into this thing, right? And it was such a wonderful experience to go through, just to realize, hey, I have three things in common with total strangers each and every day, in every place of life, in every city across across Canada. It was just amazing to go through that. So
And think about like the questions that we ask first too, right? We find out, what do you do for a living? Like, where do you live? What's your background? As opposed to like, where do you want to travel? What's the most exciting thing that you've ever done? What's the most
mm,
courageous thing you've ever done? So think about the questions that we're asking, and the quality of the questions lead to the quality of the relationship. And we're not asking really deep questions. So that's probably the step one, is check in on yourself. What questions are you asking when you meet someone for the first time? Maybe you're inviting someone new to your team in this coming week, and you're talking to them about their past career. Well, how about you talk about what's really brings joy in their life, their kids, their pets, their travel. There's a reason why they have a job, and you can get to that core reason why they have that job, then you can activate them to be really passionate about what they do.
yeah, no, I love how you said that, because we start off with those questions. So what do you do? Everyone, so
Mm.
what do you do? What if, and one of the things I've tried playing around with this weekend, what's the one thing that lights you up?
Ooh, I like that
Ooh,
one.
I know people are like, ooh, I gotta think about what lights me up. So they sit there, and it always catches people off guard. It's like, ooh, what lights me up? What are you passionate about? What was the most exciting part of your weekend? Instead
Mm-hmm.
of how was just your weekend, what was the most exciting part of your weekend? and people always find something that's exciting. Like it's
I,
just
I, I love that, John, because that's a little baby tactic about calling embedded commands. But you're embedding that, hey, there had to be something exciting. So even if someone, didn't label it already exciting, they're going to think
Mhm.
back like, oh yeah, that actually was out of the ordinary or really amazing. And it might be something simple. Like for me, I took a walk down to the lake and it was super, super windy. And like my hair was blowing, my hat was blowing off. Like I was like, okay, I got to turn around. But it was extraordinary because I was witnessing the power of the wind and Mother Nature and all that stuff. And I'm like, oh, the winter's coming. And like, yeah, the winter's coming. A new season is here. So I was able to quickly change it to be, this is a really awesome moment, even though I
Mhm.
was freezing cold and I wasn't dressed appropriately, right? So
Yeah, I know. It's funny you say that. I was like, what do I wear? Like I just want to wear t-shirts all the time. Like that's kind of what I've resigned myself to. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go model some great people. They wear t-shirts all the time. I want to go wear t-shirts all the time. So yeah, adjusting to the weather that's out there today and what's been happening. But it's when I think about yes, and I think about saying yes. Yes comes with just there's an openness and actually the word I want to use is there's a curiosity,
mm,
right? There's a curiosity. Like one of the people I met. So the other part of the exercise, there's two parts. One is let's find three things in common, and then the other part, which I didn't realize from a just from an unconscious level, I wasn't doing, but find one or two good things about that person. What are one or two things that you like about them, or what are one or two things that stand out about that person? And you weren't
mm.
allowed to talk about their hair. Oh, I love your hair. Like that was, well, for me, whatever. It's not even a thing. Right. But, I said yes to, okay, and every person that I meet today, I'm going to find one or two things that I like about them. And,
Mm,
at first it actually took some work, right? It's like, what do I say? Because the other part of it is, especially what's been happening over the last 2.5 years outside of the P word is we're almost limited in terms of what we can say to people. I want to give somebody a compliment, say, "Hey, you look really great," but in my head, I'm thinking, is this going to offend them, or is this going to set them off in a way that maybe isn't so positive? Luckily, I was in a room where everybody's like, "Yeah, okay, I'll accept it." But I wonder sometimes, right, how much we've been unconditioned to look at what's good in people,
mm.
right?
I
Because we've been sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, I was just thinking, where the old way was to be superficial with, I like your shirt, I like your hair, I like what I see. And actually what we're responding to is what we feel about the person. We
Mhm.
make a determination whether we like or dislike someone in the first like 10 seconds of meeting them. And that's because we're in tune with the energy that they give off. So oftentimes I'll remark on someone's energy level because I
Mhm.
can feel that and it's my interpretation of it. So I can't put a meaning on it because it's your energy, John, but I may say to you, "Hey, John, I noticed that your energy is really a lot higher today. Is that true for you?" And
Mhm.
now you'll be like, "Yeah, actually it is." Or you'll be like, "No, actually I'm feeling a little bit down." I'm like, "Wow, that's not what you're portraying." And so now you're going to step in because you're like, well, if I'm not portraying it, then maybe I don't feel it. And your body will change, your shoulders will lift up,
Mhm.
your breathing will come in, and now your energy just increased. So it's also a little fun trick to give people a little bit of your energy, a little bit of love.
Yeah. No, I love that. The energy piece for sure. I think I've used it. I definitely used it. The other part was how people made you feel, right? And I
Mm,
guess this comes down to energy, right? And a lot of people were just open, welcoming, inviting, um, just curious. Actually, that was one of the words I used with one of the persons I met yesterday or Saturday. It's like, what I sense about you is that you're really curious about others, right? And they're like, ooh, that's interesting. I didn't know that about myself. So you're also, when you go into that process, you're opening them up, right? It's like,
mm,
oh, really? I give that off. That's fantastic, right? Like they're all positive things, right? You're not going to say, hey, something not so positive, right? But that's tendency, like, I don't know if you've family functions, Thanksgiving, everybody was Thanksgiving last weekend. So, there's always that one person in the family that finds all the bad stuff in you, right? It's like, oh, what happened? Did you put on some weight? Like, wait a minute. That's not what I want to hear from you. But it's one person in like 10, 20, or 100 that do that kind of thing, right? And you don't have to be in their vibration. You don't have to be in their energy circle. So you can step away from it. So it was a bit of an eye opener. It's like, ooh, when was the last time I said something nice to somebody? And, and I think about those closest to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is, why sometimes people feel like they're taken for granted. It's like, you don't say, listen, people will know that you love them, you care about them, you think they're beautiful. But if you don't say it, like,
I have coached so many people, John, for that exact same reason, where something isn't going right in a relationship or they're feeling unfulfilled. And my question to them is, what do you need in the relationship? And it's usually recognition or acknowledgement. And then the second question is, how much of that are you giving?
yeah.
And yeah, that's usually the reaction. How much of that are you giving? That we need to give it away first. And, recognition, acknowledgement, whether it be at work or at home, for your kids or your spouses, it's all needed for that feeling of connection.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I was thinking about work, right? Like, how many times have I been in an environment where I felt appreciated, right? Or even acknowledged, right? Like a simple thing. And I think you did this as well, walking into the office every morning, any person you made eye contact with, any person you make eye contact with would be hey, good morning. How are you today? Right? Like, there's like that simple act of just acknowledging those around you makes a difference when it comes to environment and culture, right? And
Really,
if you even go deeper and say, so how was, what was the most exciting part about your weekend? It's like, ooh, wow, this person actually wants to know me, right? Like that connection piece. But that connection piece goes, staying on the theme of yes, right? We say yes, say yes.
well, I think it's say yes to doing that today, right? Like, instead of saying to people, how was your weekend? What was the most exciting part of your weekend? Like, that's a takeaway right now that you can do. Like, your morning meetings haven't even started yet. So you're going to at least talk to 5 people today. What if you ask that question to 5 people today?
Yeah. No, 100%. Just let's light it up. There's your challenge. I think the challenge has been laid down for today. So, ask 5 people what excited them this weekend, and then just be aware of what shows up in them for you. Because people are gonna look different. Like, you might even see a little bit of a smile on their face if they're not smiling already, right? So sometimes it's just those little things, right? Like in your work environment. And I know we're all, there's still a lot of people that are working remote, people that are working behind a camera like we are, and just acknowledging them over camera as well. It's like, hey, what's that one thing for you that was really exciting this weekend? And then, like, if there's nothing, it's like, really, is there nothing that was exciting this weekend? You got to start your weekend on Friday. That's exciting, no?
And you may end up getting someone that had a difficult weekend, and they may tell you like nothing exciting happened, but then you've opened up the door for maybe a reach out for help. So you can be of service no matter what the answer is. You can be of service listening with the intent to hear as opposed to listening to the intent to respond. And if they didn't have something exciting happen, then they've had something happen that they're maybe want to talk about.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Thank you for bringing it back to that, Heather, because you're right. Not everybody's going to have that amazing weekend. There's things going on in people's lives, and people are, no, 100%. There's an awareness to it.
It's awareness, and it goes right back to a daily activity that I talk about all the time, but it's so important. Every day, positively impact 5 people. How can you positively impact 5 people? And sometimes it's asking them what exciting things happened on the weekend. Sometimes it's being a shoulder that they need from. Sometimes it's sharing a story of your own vulnerability so that they can take whatever life lessons they need from it. Not what you think they need, but what they will take from your story. And these are ways that you can positively impact those around you. And
Yeah.
it's such a simple thing to say every day I'm going to positively impact 5 people, but it is so profound and has a massive ripple effect for you and the people that you love around you.
Yeah. No, 100%. Wow. Yeah, I'm just sitting with that. I'm just like, you're right. Let's just open ourselves up, right? Let's say yes to making that impact, and that impact comes from curiosity, just asking people, what's going on. And you're right. And I've even heard stories where, that one person who's been secluded, isolated, removed from everybody, it only takes that one conversation to say, hey, what's going on? That kind of opens up a door, and it gives people the opportunity to share what's really happening with them. And there's a lot of people right now that are scared and fearful, and yeah, it's what's happening in the world. And just extending that olive branch, that metaphorical olive branch to people, and say, hey, let's just talk, right? And anybody who's listening to this, who's going through anything, if you need a conversation with somebody, reach out to somebody, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know we took it like it got really deep today.
I
Wow.
know, but this is what this is what's needed. We feel the energy of our own energy and the energy of the people around us. So whoever needed to hear this message, I hope you hear it really loud that you are not alone and
Mm,
someone is there for you. And if you don't feel that someone is there for you, me and John are there for you. We are literally a direct message in LinkedIn, in Facebook. We answer all of our direct messages, and we're there for you. So, reach
yeah.
out if you need it.
I know. Thank you for extending that out. Absolutely. We are here. We're open to conversation if you just want to reach out and just get started. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm like, wow. Wow. I'm like, that is like, wow. Yeah. Yeah, I guess something's going on in the world today that's kind of brought this conversation to the forefront, because it wouldn't be here. Yeah, because one of the things, and some of you who are listening and watching right now might not realize that Heather and I really kind of feel what's happening in the environment, what's happening in and around us, what's happening in the world. And that's what we speak to. And that's how we build up these conversations. So there is something in the world today, right? Like there is definitely something out there. So yeah, no, if you need a conversation with somebody, open up, just reach out. And if it's just to say hello, whatever that is, just reach out. No, 100%. So Heather, as we go into the rest of the week, we got a couple of different things that we're planning for that's coming up soon.
Yep.
And just for those that are watching, we do have another special guest this week, which I'm really excited to bring on to our show. I guess we're calling it the
On
Yes
Friday.
Say
It's Friday.
Yes show. Yeah,
Yeah.
the Say Yes show. Man, like what a transformation from let's go from coffee chats to Say Yes.
I love it.
And the movement, and what's been really neat is I don't know if you've had this, but people are reaching out to me, and I'm asking them the question, and they're like, yeah, of course, I want to say yes. And I'm like, wow, where'd that come from? They're like, oh, we've been watching you guys. And it's like, we're just going to keep saying yes to all the things that kind of push us forward.
That's right.
And I love it. It's like, so if you're out there, what are you saying yes to? What can you say yes to this week? As you go through your week, as you're making those connections with people, what are you saying yes to? Right. And I love that. It's like, I want to call it the yes movement, but I don't know if it's quite there. You think it's called the yes movement?
It's everyone that's listening to us taking that one baby step, that one action. And then when it is a movement, John, you don't have to call it a movement because it's moving on its own. So let's just create the tsunami of love and
Yeah.
get, I think the call to action today was to ask people what was the most exciting part about their weekend and make that connection, figure out what you have in common with them, find 3 things that you have in common. It means you got to ask some new questions. So that's
Yeah.
your activity from now till we're back again on Wednesday.
Yeah. So we're at the point of wrapping up. I just want to give a shout out to Inkachi, who's saying good morning and she's loving the discussion. And thank you for joining us this morning. But yeah, I know. And, just to add one little thing to that, just stay curious, right? Just stay curious to what's happening and really be aware of what's happening to that person in front of you. Like really be curious, right? And be excited about that curiosity. when you think of them as the most interesting person in the world, it's going to change the conversation for you too, right? So it's something to think about as you go through your week. But it looks like we're at time, and we don't want to make people late for work. So, with that, everybody, thank you again for watching and listening and participating as part of the Say Yes show now. That's what we're calling it. And we'll be back on Wednesday. And you've got your homework for today. So you got your challenge. Be curious, ask people what was exciting about their weekend, and just really be aware and curious around that. All right. So Heather, thank you again. And we'll see all of you soon. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.